Yo, what's up guys? Markel here, and today we're going to do a Q&A session. So people have been hitting me up on LinkedIn asking me a bunch of questions or different questions, and I thought that I would take some of those questions that I see frequently or hear frequently and just talk to you guys about them directly on here. We have 5 questions, so let's get into it. So question number 1, how did you get to Tesla? It's a good question. So short answer, via LinkedIn in 2014. The long answer is, one, I interned at a ton of places. So in college, I interned at Chrysler and Toyota. And before that, I interned at Marathon and Shell. And so what I was able to do when I eventually did get seen by Tesla, it actually made sense why I did the internships that I did. And essentially the logic was I always wanted to work on sustainability. So I went to oil and gas in hopes to actually do something sustainable. And by just getting those experiences, because you just kind of have to accept whatever experience you get in the beginning, by doing those first 2 experiences, I was actually able to get my foot in the door at Toyota, where I did like advanced development or advanced engineering, and that seemed to be super helpful to see kind of like what's on the roadmap for Toyota. So this was in 2013, and we were looking at what the Camry would have in the cockpit electronics in like 2016, 2017. So I already got like my foot in the door at Toyota to kind of look ahead. And so that was like super early stage development. And then I had an opportunity to intern at Chrysler, which was like the other end of the spectrum, which was supplier quality or supplier industrialization. And during that time, I actually got to see what it was like right before you shipped a product, right? So you're having to PPAP, which that's a whole nother conversation, but is essentially auditing to make sure something is ready to be manufactured in a reliable and consistent way. And seeing like that, the very like end spectrums, then kind of trying to fill in the pieces, I was, I guess, a compelling candidate for Tesla. And I feel like I was super lucky because I just made a LinkedIn account and I just threw everything I had on there. I will say it wasn't like just sunshine and rainbows. I applied online and applied to their website for like every job left and right, and never really I didn't get any responses like whatsoever. But I did actually get reached out by a recruiter in like the fall before I graduated. She reached out to me. We had like one email exchange and then ghosted. So I know what it's like to be ghosted. It sucks. And I was like super close. Around that same time period, I actually accepted an offer at Chrysler. And right up until like maybe like a week or about a month before I graduated, Tesla reached out via LinkedIn again. And this time, like I had like a slightly improved LinkedIn page because I was continually like improving and iterating on it to try to appeal to like anybody on LinkedIn, but again, applying online. So taking those like parallel efforts that I try to encourage. Yeah, so I had like a phone screening and went through like the standard interview process at the time. So that's kind of how I got to Tesla. So hopefully that helps shed some light as far as what you should consider as well. So question 2. I wanted to ask about your journey at Tesla as a Black engineer. I'm curious to know what sort of hurdles you ran into. Do you have any advice for anyone early in their tech journey? So, appreciate this question. And yeah, I would say the first things that I wrote here was I felt alone, and it was really difficult because it was not necessarily solely because I was Black, but I think it definitely was a huge factor. I moved cross country and I had no friends, had no family in the area. So just that kind of solitude or like no relationships formed was a little difficult. And like as an introvert, that was probably like really challenging. So I definitely felt alone for like a little bit, but everyone on my team started around the same time, like plus or minus like 2 months. So it was really cool to kind of start with people. So that definitely did help. But being the only Black engineer or Black person around besides on the production floor was a little bit different, for lack of a better word. It was just, just not being represented definitely didn't feel good, definitely wasn't encouraging. And if anything, that kind of goes to my second point. It probably definitely led to imposter syndrome. So as like the only Black engineer around, there were, some around like here and there. It was difficult because, not seeing people around, you kind of felt like, man, maybe I don't belong. Maybe like, I'm an affirmative action hire or something like that. And, maybe that was the case. I don't know. But, Tesla is kind of built on this idea of like meritocracy where, you have to earn your way. So that was kind of reassuring, but I definitely at times, and many a times, like even to this day, felt like I didn't belong, I don't belong, or like I wasn't as competent as like my peers. And that kind of kept me humble in the sense of being able to like continuously pushing through, but it definitely had its negative sides where I definitely felt like I wasn't doing good work, and my work actually like reflected the fact that like my self-esteem was low. So I would say like the biggest detriment has probably been like the imposter syndrome. The last piece was, I would say I noted here, is like not feeling comfortable being myself. So I mean, this has just been like a life thing really, but I was always told, there's this like certain definition of professionalism, and I definitely adhered to that. When I was in college, I wore suits. I wore like professional clothes like all the time. And when I came to Silicon Valley, when I came to like the Bay Area, that wasn't necessarily a thing, especially for like a company like Tesla, where it was a lot more casual, not even business casual. It was just like casual. Yeah, I didn't exercise that casual side, but over time, I definitely started to get a little bit more laid back. Like I went from button ups to t-shirts after like 3 years, which sounds like a little bit, but it was actually a big step because I didn't want to be misconstrued as not being professional and having people judge me based off the way I look. And so, yeah, I definitely was cognizant of how I appeared and just not being comfortable being my authentic self, which probably is like it's definitely a thing that's talked about a lot nowadays, is being able to bring your authentic self to work. And to me, that just meant like, yo, I want to wear a t-shirt and I want to say yo every once in a while, and hopefully that's cool. And yeah, I felt like I was able to do that after a few years. Again, kind of like that was more from proving myself than in combination of just probably having some dope people around me and dope colleagues and coworkers that, just were accepting. They're like, we're just trying to do work. We really either don't care or it's cool, and either way it was fine. So that was probably like some of the biggest hurdles. And then as far as advice I would give to anyone kind of early in their tech journey, or a Black engineer on their tech journey, the first thing I can think of is execute. Like you have to execute. Like if you don't feel like you're executing well, find resources, find people, find some help. Don't suffer in silence. Like just find a way to be able to execute, because that's why you're at that company. That's why you're in that role, to be able to handle the responsibilities they give. And it's not even on you to just like do it in a vacuum or in isolation. It's just got to get it done. So keep that in mind. Second thing I say is find your crew, create mutual relationships of support, development, and peers to challenge you. And that's been huge for me. Like I have a group of friends. It's a small group, but I have like a few friends that I definitely turn to. Like one friend, we started around the same time, and we were always trying to like challenge each other on the ascension to like new levels of engineering status. And that was super cool because like you couldn't just like fake that. You had to actually develop. So we both had to like grow, and we both kind of challenge each other on our growth. And even he was mechanical, is mechanical, and I'm electrical. And so even though we're in slightly different domains, we were still able to kind of say like, I'm trying to become a better version of myself. And so I found that super cool. And then also being able to like turn to him to be able to like talk about different things, whether it's at work, whether it's outside of work. So just finding like your friends, finding your peers, finding that network that you can kind of lean on, and also have them lean on you. The third thing I wrote is advocate for yourself. No one will advocate for you until you advocate for yourself. And no one will advocate for you like you will for yourself. And that's really important to realize, because like the difference between, I would say like an older school company and like a Silicon Valley company is, and maybe some companies are, this not like a rule of thumb, but it's probably common. It's essentially this idea that they're not going to hold your hand on your development. You are responsible for your own development. So figure it out. Figure out where you're trying to go and really take ownership in that. And that means you have to advocate for yourself. That means you have to go out, talk to people, connect with people, create your own mentors, maybe have informal mentors so you don't like scare people away by saying, hey, will you be my mentor? And they're like, no, I'm not into this like huge responsibility. Rather say, hey, can I talk to you and get some insight from you every once in a while? and I'm pretty sure you'll be more successful with that. So yeah, you have to advocate for yourself. And so like seeking things, saying what you're capable of, and knowing what you're capable of. So that's the third thing. And I kind of already talked about this, but the last thing I wrote is find others willing to advocate for you and see the potential in you. And that's kind of like my whole like framework of the power of guides. Find someone who's able first to see your capabilities, but then are able to see where you could go with that skill set. And so they can kind of like, they've been there, they can like see other roles in the future that may be a good fit for you. And they can help you like potentially navigate or develop towards that. So you want to definitely find someone to give you that level of insight, because yeah, it'd be cool to be able to just do it alone, but you know, that's not necessary. And if anything, like it helps like to get as many eyes, to get as much perspective as you can. And that's one of the biggest value adds of just like humans, being able to collaborate.